My entitled wife disappeared after a girl's trip. Years later, she showed up at my doorstep with a baby. So I destroyed her life. We've been married 3 years. When she announced she needed a girls' weekend out of state. Nothing unusual about it. She'd done these trips before or. I drove her to the airport at 5 a.m., kissed her goodbye, even upgraded her seat as a surprise. She texted me when she landed. That was the last message I ever got from her. Her 3 friends came back Sunday night. She didn't. I called her phone 47 times that first day. Straight to voicemail. I contacted her friends. Her sister, her parents. Nobody knew anything. I filed a missing persons report on day 2. The police said she probably just needed space ace. We didn't even fight. Before she left, I hired a private investigator for $8,000. He found nothing. Her credit cards hadn't been used. Her phone was off. She'd vanished. I completely fell apart. Lost 30 pounds in 2 months because I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep without seeing her face. Her parents let me stay in their guest room for weeks. Because as I couldn't be alone in our house, I genuinely thought she'd been trafficked or murdered. Spent another $12,000 checking hospitals across the state, calling police departments, posting on missing persons forums. Her mother held me while I sobbed, telling me we'd find her. But we never did. After 6 months, the police closed the case. After a year, her family stopped bringing her up. After 18 months, I finally started therapy, because I was having panic attacks. Every time I saw a woman with her hair color, it took me 2 full years to accept that she'd chosen to leave, that she'd planned it, that I'd never get answers. But I didn't waste those years. I threw myself into work, got promoted twice, became regional director of operations, started going to the gym at 6 a.m. every day, bought a new car, went on dates, built a completely new life without her. Then last Tuesday at 9:17 p.m., my doorbell rings. I open the door, and there she is. Same blonde hair, same green eyes, holding a baby that looked about 6 months old. Hey, she says, like she'd just been gone for the weekend. I know you're probably mad, but I can explain everything. I couldn't speak. I just stood there staring at this ghost from my past holding a baby. Can I come in? It's cold out here, she says, stepping forward. I blocked the doorway. No talk from there. She sighs, adjusting the baby on her hip. Okay, fine. Look, I left because I wanted a baby, and you couldn't give me one. Remember? Remember? She repeated, shifting her weight as the wind whipped her hair across her face. We tried for a year, Mark. Nothing happened. I'm a woman. I have a biological clock. I didn't want to hurt you, so I fixed the problem. She gestured to the infant in her arms as if he were a grocery store purchase, a problem solved. I found a donor, she continued, her voice gaining that terrifyingly casual cadence she used to use when explaining why she bought expensive shoes we couldn't afford. A guy in Chicago. He was tall, athletic, good genes. I stayed there, had the baby. But it's hard doing it alone, Mark. And I missed you. I figured enough time had passed. You've probably cooled off. We can be a family now. I mean, look at him. He needs a dad. My hand was gripping the doorframe so hard the wood was biting into my palm. I looked at the baby. He was innocent in this. But when I looked at her, Sarah, I didn't see the woman I had mourned. I didn't see the woman whose phantom had haunted the guest room of her parents' house, while I sobbed into her mother's shoulder. I saw a stranger. A parasitic stranger. You didn't want to hurt me, I repeated, my voice dead calm. Exactly, she smiled, stepping forward again. I knew you'd understand eventually. You're a pragmatic guy. You let me spend $12,000 searching morgues, I said. You let your mother put herself on blood pressure medication because she thought you were in a ditch somewhere. She waved a hand dismissively. Mom's always been dramatic. Mark, it's freezing. Let me in. No. Her smile faltered. What? You aren't my wife, I said. My wife died 3 years ago on a flight to Chicago. I don't know who you are. I slammed the door. I didn't just close it. I threw the deadbolt. Then the chain. Then I backed away into the hallway, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. From outside, the pounding started. Mark, are you insane? Open the door. I have a baby out here. Mark. I walked into the kitchen, my hands trembling, not from fear, but from a rage so cold it felt like hypothermia. I pulled up the app for my Ring doorbell on my phone. The video was clear. HD quality audio. I left because I wanted a baby. I found a donor. I stayed there. I hit save. Then I hit download. The pounding stopped after 5 minutes. I watched on the camera as she huffed, pulled out her phone, and made a call. I saw her lips move. Mom? Yeah, it's me. I'm at Mark's. He locked me out. I knew what was coming next. The cavalry. I went to my liquor cabinet, poured 2 fingers of bourbon, and drank it standing up. Then I picked up my phone and dialed the one number I knew I had to call before she spun her web. Robert. I said when her father answered. Mark. His voice was groggy. It was late. Is everything okay? No, Robert. It's not. I need you and Linda to come over. Right now. Did they find something? Did they find her body? The panic in the old man's voice broke my heart all over again. She's alive, Robert, I said. She's here. And you need to see this. By the time Robert and Linda arrived, Sarah was sitting on my porch swing, wrapped in her coat, the baby sleeping in a carrier. I hadn't opened the door. I waited until I saw Robert's headlights sweep across the driveway. I opened the door then. The reunion was chaos. Linda screamed. She actually collapsed onto the concrete walkway, wailing. Sarah stood up, playing the part of the returning war hero. Tears streaming down her face as she embraced her mother. "I'm so sorry, Mom, I'm so sorry," Sarah sobbed. I had to. I was confused. Postpartum depression. I was scared. She was already rewriting the script. 10 minutes ago, she was fixing a problem. Now she was a victim of mental health and fear. Robert stood back, staring at her. He looked 10 years older than the last time I'd seen him. He looked at the baby. Then he looked at me. "Mark," Robert said, his voice shaking. She's back." "Come inside," I said. "All of you." We sat in the living room. The same living room Sarah had decorated 4 years ago. She sat on the sofa, clutching her mother's hand. Linda couldn't stop touching Sarah's face, as if checking she was real. "I don't understand," Linda wept. "Where were you? Why didn't you call?" "I was ashamed," Sarah whispered, looking down at the rug. "I got pregnant. On the trip. A mistake. A one-night stand. I was so scared Mark would kill me. I was scared you guys would disown me. So I ran. I just needed to figure it out. And then, the baby came, and I realized I couldn't deprive him of his family." She looked up at me, eyes shimmering with tears. "It was a masterclass. I came back for you, Mark. I want us to forgive." Robert looked at me, hope warring with confusion in his eyes. "Mark, it's a miracle, isn't it?" I stood up. I walked to the massive 65-inch television mounted on the wall. "Sarah," I said, "you were always a good actress. But you forgot one thing. We live in the future now." I pulled out my phone and cast the video file to the TV. The screen flickered to life. The wide-angle lens of the doorbell camera showed Sarah, clear as day, standing on the porch 20 minutes ago. "I left because I wanted a baby and you couldn't give me one. Remember?" Her digital voice rang out, crisp and arrogant. Linda froze. Her hand dropped from Sarah's arm. "I didn't want to hurt you, so I fixed the problem. I found a donor. A guy in Chicago. You've probably cooled off. We can be a family now. I mean, look at him. He needs a dad." I paused the video on her smirk. The silence in the living room was heavier than the grave. "You weren't scared I'd kill you," I said, turning to face her. "And it wasn't a mistake. You planned it. You booked a trip, you found a stud, and you left me to rot. You let your parents spend their retirement savings looking for a corpse because you wanted to play house. That's out of context." Sarah shrieked, standing up. The baby woke up and started to cry. I was nervous. I was just saying things. "Robert," I said, ignoring her and turning to her father. "How much did you spend on the private investigator?" Robert was staring at the TV screen. His face had gone purple. 25,000. "And the reward money you posted?" 50,000, he whispered. "I spent 8 grand on the PI, I said. 12 on the search. I lost a promotion because I couldn't focus. I went to therapy for 2 years to learn how to sleep without screaming." I looked at Sarah. "You didn't just leave. You tortured us. You inflicted psychological warfare on the people who loved you. Just so you could go have a kid without dealing with a divorce." "I'm your daughter," Sarah yelled at her parents, clutching the crying baby. "He's trying to turn you against me. I'm back. Isn't that enough?" Linda stood up. She was a small woman, usually soft-spoken. She walked over to Sarah. Slap. The sound echoed off the vaulted ceiling. "You let me mourn you," Linda hissed. "I bought a burial plot, Sarah. I bought a plot next to your grandmother. I picked out a headstone." "Mom, get out," Robert said. His voice was unrecognizable. "Dad, you aren't the daughter I raised. The daughter I raised wouldn't do this to Mark. She wouldn't do this to us." Robert walked over to me and put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry." "You're choosing him?" Sarah screamed, her face twisting into ugly lines. "He's nobody. I have your grandson. You have a stranger's child that you stole a father from," Robert said. "And you have no home here. Get out." That was the beginning. But destroying her life required more than just one night of revelations. It required paperwork. She refused to leave town. She checked into a motel. I knew because she started texting me demanding alimony. She claimed that since we were still legally married, half of my assets were hers. She wanted the house. She wanted my savings. She didn't know I had been busy. The next morning, I met with my lawyer, a shark named Eleanor who had helped me with estate planning when I thought Sarah was dead. "Abandonment is tricky," Eleanor said, tapping her pen. "But this is gold." She gestured to the doorbell video. "Adultery is clear. Abandonment is clear. But we're going to go for intentional infliction of emotional distress. And we're going to sue her for the costs of the search." "I don't want the money," I said. "I want her to have nothing. Then we file for an annulment based on fraud, or an immediate divorce with a scorched earth policy on assets," Eleanor said. "Did she use any joint funds to fund her trip?" "She emptied a savings account we had for a house down payment. $5,000. "Perfect. She financed her adultery with marital assets." We filed the papers 3 days later. But I wasn't done. I went to the police station. I spoke to Detective Miller, the man who had handled her missing persons case. She's back. Miller asked, his coffee cup pausing halfway to his mouth. She's back. She staged it. Miller's eyes narrowed. Do you know how many man-hours we wasted? Do you know we had divers in the river? I know, I said. She's staying at the Motel 6 off the highway. Technically, disappearing isn't a crime, but filing a false police report is. And while she didn't file it, her actions caused a massive waste of public resources. They couldn't arrest her for leaving, but they could charge her with obstruction or public mischief depending on how she had covered her tracks. It turned out, she had used a fake ID to fly back under the radar. That was a felony. Miller paid her a visit. He didn't arrest her, but he scared the hell out of her. He told her the department was considering a civil suit for the resources wasted. Then came the social blow. Sarah tried to reintegrate. She reached out to her old friends, the ones she had gone on the trip with, the ones who had been questioned by police, who had cried at vigils, who had been looked at with suspicion by the community. I invited them all over for drinks. I didn't tell them what to think. I just played the video. She landed, her friend Jessica said, shaking. She texted me she landed, and then she just threw her SIM card away. She watched you guys get grilled by the cops, I said. She knew you were suspects, and she didn't care. By the end of the night, Sarah had been blocked on every social media platform by everyone she had ever known in this town. The final nail in the coffin came 3 months later in divorce court. Sarah walked in looking confident. She had a public defender because her parents had refused to pay for a lawyer. She was wearing a modest dress, trying to play the struggling single mother. I walked in with Eleanor. The judge was a stern woman who had seen it all. She read the file. She watched the video. She looked at the financial records showing the money Sarah had taken, and the mountain of debt I had incurred looking for her. Mrs. Vance, the judge said, in my 20 years on the bench, I have rarely seen a display of narcissism this profound. I just wanted a baby, Sarah cried. He's punishing me for being a mother. He is not the father, the judge snapped. And you abandoned your marriage. You are entitled to nothing. In fact, I am granting Mr. Vance's request for restitution regarding the search costs. You owe the petitioner $12,000. I don't have $12,000. Then I suggest you get a job. Judgment for the plaintiff. Divorce granted. 6 months later, I was at the grocery store. I was buying steaks. I had a date that night, a woman named Claire who was a pediatrician. She was kind, honest, and communicated everything. I saw a woman stocking shelves in the cereal aisle. She looked familiar. Her hair was dull, pulled back in a hairnet. She looked tired, worn down. It was Sarah. She saw me. She froze, a box of cornflakes in her hand. I didn't stop. I didn't glare. I didn't smirk. I just looked through her, as if she were a ghost. As if she were exactly what she had chosen to be for 3 years. Gone. I walked past her, toward the checkout, toward my car, and toward a life that was finally truly mine. I heard a sound behind me as I turned the corner of the aisle. A sharp intake of breath, maybe a sob. I didn't look back.